Hey, everybody. We got music coming in a second. We're gonna get it now. There we go. Ooh, yeah. Stop check that you come through. Yep. So, hey, everybody. This is Crash Season 3 Power Rankings for Week 1. Oh, yeah. So, as hopefully many of you will know from the post-draft power rankings, we've expanded to a 6-person draft this season. It's very exciting. We have a very strong roster. We have a selection of very strong drafts. I said 16-person, didn't I? Uh-oh. I'm about to get... Oh, 16-person, not 6. But yeah, so we had the post-draft rankings last week. We have now had week 1 and week 2 all being played. I've been busy, but we're now going to play catch-up. So, the matchups for this week, for those who are interested, we had Slap of the Ottawa Aurus playing Scoot, aka Zamcro, of the Blackmont Racougars. We had Ducksuck playing the Far-Fetched Flyers, playing Malone of the St. Louis Swabblies. We had Brett of the Riverside Otters playing Orozco of the Chiracahua Bombers. We then had Crypto, one of our 2 admins, playing for the Amity Ampharos, playing against... oh, blimey, what the heck's going on with my voice? Playing against It's Fish of the Winters Weaver, aka the Mew World Order. I'm still not sure which one he is. We'll find out later. We then have Jimmy and his Pittsburgh Reggie Steelers playing against the other admin, of course, of the name Agnes of the New York Mews. We then have Phantom Base, the in-house Doc God, playing for the New York Cosmogs against Jake of the Charlotte Beedrills. We then have Sketch, one of the 2 mods, playing for the Winston Weavals against Levenant of the Tulsa Infernos. And then finally, we had KHD of the Jersey Pursuits playing against Mike of the Kandahar Crocodiles. A lot of interesting games this week. A lot of quite decent heat was brought as well. I am impressed, guys. Keep it up. If week 2, I know week 2's been played, if it drops off for week 2, I'm not going to be happy. But so just to kind of put things into context, the draft analysis PR was purely down to what we saw in the draft, or at least what I saw in the draft. And then you had Sketch and Bash chiming in. Unfortunately, neither of them can join me this evening. Everybody's a bit busy, and we're on a kind of a time constraint, so you just got me. So we're going to see just how much quicker it is when you only got one person talking. But yeah, so post-draft was down to the draft only. Now that we've seen you guys actually play with it, we're marking you on everything, almost. So without further ado, we're going to head straight into this. And so, unfortunately, there has to be a butt of the group. There has to be a 16th. We'd love to put everybody at first. But so, coming in at 16th is still the Tulsa Infernos and Levenant. You had a rough matchup. There is no denying it. And then you got styled on so hard like there was no tomorrow. The big thing here for me is that, so whilst I'd like to put you higher, for the amount that you got beaten, I couldn't actually I wasn't given enough of your team and how you're playing to really gauge where I should put you, and so that means that I could only leave you where I'd already left you, almost. But yeah, so I mean, what I can take out of this, I mean, you got a hard caught off guard by the Miracote low punny. We'll come back to that when it's Sketch's turn, because I'll squeal. But yeah, I don't know whether Finney was your dedicated switch in to Salamence, because as soon as screens go up, you know that something's about to go down with Ment. But Cresselia was not your dedicated switch-in, and if it was, you needed something better, in my opinion. I mean, I know first-hand opinion, it is hard to prep against screens plus setup spam. But yeah, you just got brain blasted by the Lopunny, and then it doubles down into the Salamence sweep. All I can say is come back better next week, and what you will see is that further through this is that there have been some big jumps, there have been some little jumps. If I have wrongly gauged your draft, then, and actually your play skill makes up for it, then there have been some huge jumps through this. But at the moment I haven't been able to actually see the progress or see where the coach ties in with the draft for this draft. So you're staying as 16th for now. You will move, I can guarantee it. If you get some wins under your belt, you're going to jump around. But yeah, at the moment 16th. Sorry, Lev. Coming in at 15th, we have Mike and the Kandahar Crocodiles. So again, I must say, with 16 people, it's harder to properly set apart some levels. Probably between like 15th and 9th, you're all within kind of like the same area, same kind of, I don't know. You're all in the same real estate, basically, for me. My notes, I will read you my notes for this, and it is literally, huh? You set rain, and then you got greedy and decided to go for the focus energy instead of clearing the Empoleon, because you knew that the Scald Burn was going to be an issue. And I feel as if that the game would have been more winnable if you just got rid of... I mean, I don't know whether you were, for some reason, sniper focus energy when you've just set rain. You've manually set rain with your bronze on. I mean, what? As now, I was left without words for what kind of happened there. The rest of the game was a bit tit for tat, and actually, some of the plays didn't make much sense to me on either side, and so actually it is reflected negatively in some senses for both teams here, because actually it was one of these things where one team played poorly and managed to get away with the win, and one team played poorly and just still got given a loss. And so that's just something that it falls in the middle of. Come again, same as Lev, come back next week, actually do what you're going to do, and I will properly bash this stuff out. I know that this is probably only going to impact either your week 3 or week 4 games, this feedback, so I'm sorry if I'm banging the same drum next week, but well, in 2 days time. But yeah, head down, see what we can do. Coming in at 14th, this was the one which I wrote an absolute butt ton for. Coming in at number 14th, we have Slap and the Ottawa Aurus. Yes, it is you. Yeah. I can understand where you're coming from. I can understand where all of the kind of annoyance is coming from for this game. I looked up, I went out of my way for this one to actually kind of look into what was low rolls and what was high rolls and where everything fell in between. Let me quickly go through the first half of the game, because actually the first half of the game wasn't bad. There was actually a lot of positives to come out of it. You dealt with a lot of things fairly well. There are a couple of spotlights though. So turn 3, that was Raikou versus Seismitoad, and you went for the Stealth Rocks, predicting that Raikou would switch. At the point, so I would not say, it would be unfair to say that you must guess that the Raikou is a lure set. I'm not going to say it. It's just that so my thing is that so Mons always fall into different kind of categories. There are multiple different ways to categorize stuff, and we all know that. So you have like the offensive Mons, defensive Mons, setup sweepers, choice sweepers, stuff like that. To me, muck is something which should be ringing alarm bells in the fact that so if it ever turns up, you must have a reliable and healthy ground type. And you were unfortunate in the way that the game fell once muck hit the field, but it's almost like you probably wanted. I don't. Again, I'm talking here without looking at your draft, so I don't probably know stuff. But so if you're going to be that aggressive with one ground type, which can actually take a lot if there is any sort of tech, then you need to have another backed up if there is a muck on the field. And I know that it's focusing too much on a mon, but it's also kind of it's something which needs to be taken into consideration. And you did to some extent with Celesteela at the point when the double intimidate got at the point when there was just switching around with the Lando T. Again, this is something that I would have done as well. I would have done the same things as you, but it's hindsight is 2020, and so actually I feel like there would be some people who would be able to realize what's going on. And it's just a case of you got caught out by one of the best drafts, and actually whilst you felt like you were up, there was still the setup sweeper sitting in the wings waiting to come out, and when it did, you missed the mark for actually taking care of it. I'm not going to talk about whether or not you need a phaser or a haze mon, because muck is just one of those things. The low rolls, so yes, the low rolls. So I looked into the Shaman into Zeraroa, 2 moves. So what I got out of it is that so if both Shaman and Zeraroa were max attack with no boosting items, then muck had to have been split defensively invested, because Earth Power doesn't do that much to muck if it is fully split F. There is no way. Like that would be silly talk. So I went through the calcs and then started trying to work out if it was so let's say I just kind of made a statement of kind of let's suggest that so it was a mid roll on the Earth Power, and then we took into consideration for Zeraroa, it meant that so Zeraroa was hitting a maximum of 9%, I think, and it was at like 11 or 12%. So there was no real way out of it unless you were high rolling on the Shaman's Earth Power. Either way, it's by the by. I kind of looked into it, tickled myself for the fact that I looked into it and all of that stuff. You lost to one of the top 3 teams. This is at this current stage where everybody's still learning how to properly use and abuse their drafts. It's no surprise that some of the drafts that I view that are slightly more quirky are taking slightly longer to properly utilize all of the equipment that you've got. But so at the moment you're at 14th. Again, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. The only way is up. Coming in at 13th, because I've talked way too much about Slap because he's here and I wanted to properly explain myself. Coming in at 13th, I have Phantom Base of the New York Cosmogs. I'm actually going to talk about both Phantom and Jake at the same time, because you two are 13th and 12th. So, this game just... I don't know how to describe it. It was very reflective of the fact that I feel like your 2 drafts were the 12th and 13th drafts that I put in the post-draft. In that, so both of you had issues with a single mon, and then everything else around the game was either one of the two mons sweeping, or it was Phantom's team just doing the typical it's sitting and waiting to try and hopefully stall out issue, or it was Jake busy sacking mons to Gyarados. I had one question to do with why it went on so long. So why didn't Crobat just come in? Because the worst that would happen is that the Hippowdon would roar you out. You could get a Giga Drain off, which does like 50% if you aggressively switch in on the Hippo, as it was stealth rocking when it was around about 30%. Because actually, the Giga Drain into Sludge Bomb probably would have KO'd the Lele, and the Giga Drain was doing enough to both Aloe and Hippo that it was probably going to either A, take out the Hippo, or B, chunk the Aloe. I mean, I can understand why the stall war happened, but it's also kind of like, if somebody went for the jugular there, it could have ended in 40 moves instead of 70. That's all. But yeah, it just didn't feel like neither team took the initiative, and actually, both teams felt a little lost when they weren't when they didn't have their big hitters out on the field. The reason Jake's 12th is because I appreciate the Crobat. I love that set. That's a really nice set to use. It was the perfect set to bring to beat Phantom. That's all I can say. So covering 13th and 12th there, we then move on into 11th position, which we have Malone and the St. Louis Swabloos. This is a bit of a drop, but so there is a reason for this drop, and it's just the fact that there is a handful of drafts that both either redeemed themselves or they were played utterly above their utterly above their league this week. But so the words that I have here, this was a rough matchup and a half. You not having a poison type or a steel type that could really get its jaws into Clefable really hurt you here. And then to not have a Hazer or a Phaser hurt you even more, because Clefable won this game on preview. If it was any sort of setup variant, it won on preview. And so I can appreciate bringing some of the slightly more bulky and stally mons, and then it didn't help matters at the point when turn 1 it was, I think, that P2 got poisoned, and then Slowbro got poisoned. I mean, it was it was quite clever to switch in P2 into the Clefable, because then Magic Guard, tracing the Magic Guard meant that you didn't take any poison damage. But yeah, I mean, I just feel that you never really got traction in this game. It was unfortunate that this was just it was rough. It was hard to watch in some ways. But next week, come back bigger and stronger. Your draft is worth it, and I want to see it in the way that you play. Coming in at number 10, we have Crypto. So you got heated out of this pretty hard. I will start off with the positives. You had some really nice tech to deal with Mega Morwell. I probably underrated Vish's draft as it was, just for the fact that it has a Mega Morwell. But we'll not sit on that too long. But so I really liked the Psychic Terrain Zam, because that helps deal with Morwell, Negate, Sucker Punch. The Reflect Entei also was really nice, but it just wasn't enough I mean, so I've talked with you now as well, so whilst you had the QB smacked about by the focus punch, and whilst you say it was a sack, if it had earth power, then it could have contributed versus Mega Morwell. But yeah, I don't feel like I can say much more about this. It was not a performance to be disappointed about. It was just an exceptional performance from your opponent. Come back stronger and beat people next week. You'll come back up through the order. I feel like because week 2 has already happened, that there's a lot of foreboding in this, because it's like I'm saying come back stronger next week, and everybody knows, well, everybody apart from me knows what's happened, because I live with my head in the sand. Anyway, coming in at number 9, where are you? Oh yeah, KHD in the Jersey Pursuits. You managed to close out this game relatively well. You're kind of fortunate that Kingdra got greedy, but you used the rain to good effect to make sure that you hit the hurricanes, and generally it was a reasonable performance. It was a reasonable performance. It's why you're just shy of the top half. It was a benchmark performance. Yeah, I'm sorry, KHD. I usually have more to say, but this is one of the weeks where there's not much to say. It was a good win. Win again. You'll slowly make a march up the rankings at the moment you hold at 9th. In number 8, we have Brett of the Riverside Otters. And actually, again, this is another game where I'm going to talk about both teams at the same time, because I have Brett and I have Orozco of the Taraka Bombers at 8th and 7th respectively. Both teams played very well, and that is a given. The issues that I had was there was some significant. I don't know whether it was just both teams were into a mood of we're just going to clear the board at this point and see what happens. But so there are a couple of points where it's kind of like you've been shown. So which team was it? Orozco. You got shown that it should be understood that both Metagross and Conkelda in this matchup would be bringing priority against 2 quad weak ones. That should be understood. Whether you're just sacking by the by, I just feel like you could have rounded out with you would have had an easier time winning the game if you'd played slightly more conservatively. The end game, I'm not sure. There was a couple of things. So, okay, right, Brett. It was an unfortunate loss. You lost down the 50-50. I am confused, though, about your choice to not click Bullet Punch with Metagross, because you've just had Celebi set up a Calm Mind in your face. I understand that Shadow Ball is not standard coverage, but I would assume that at +1, Celebi is going to be taking lives. Otherwise, why? I don't understand the motivations behind it. And yeah, I feel like even with it not killing, clicking Bullet Punch twice I think would have been more preferable, because you would have then you would have been more comfortable in how Blacephalon interacted with Celebi. That was what I was trying to get out. That was a lot of pauses in there. But yeah, because you said it yourself, even in the game, over whether or not which kind of resist berry it was going to be. If you click Bullet Punch, you're going to get the damage off that kind of, even once, you probably would have ensured a KO, or to some extent. And if you'd managed to click it twice, you definitely would have, so there would have been less concern about what resist berry it was. And then I don't know whether or not the para onto Conkeldurr right at the end mattered too much. That's just by the by. So yeah, so Brett, couple of questionable plays. Orozco, couple of questionable plays. You won out on the 50-50 resist berry fun and games. Just be careful with those quad weak stack team, because you need to be more aware of what your opponents are going to be bringing to ensure that they can catch those 4x weaknesses off guard. But yeah, that's 8th and 7th sorted. Coming in at number 6, we have Jimmy and the Pittsburgh Reggie Steelers. Firstly, I'm going to come back to it when I talk about Bash as well. But so, this was a very well played game on both parts. This looked like a playoff game with some of the plays that you two are making. You put down kind of like the correct amount of pressure with Golurk, because you were correct in the fact that Bash's team is insane, apart from the fact that he gets split apart by Golurk. It was kind of unfortunate that it didn't get as much damage output off that you probably would have wanted. But yeah, so I mean, all I can say is that the performance this week on your part was and it reflects in where I've put you in PR, is better than some of the play that we've seen from other coaches who have won. It's just that you came up against Bash, who on this occasion managed to crit Rachi. I don't know how much that influenced the end game at all, but the crit on Jirachi was unfortunate. But yeah, and Bash generally, it felt like Bash managed to turn the tide of what was expected to happen in some senses. Which again, it's just one of those things. It's just in the game that we play that it happens sometimes. I expect that you'll come back winning in the weeks to follow. But yeah, 6th, no bad position. Coming in at 5th, we have Fish with the most improved ranking out of anybody. Yeah. Focus Punch Mega Morwell. You beautiful human. And then you decide to bring Scarf Roserade as well. I mean, so if this was purely on what my heart would say, you would be number 1. You'd probably be number 1, either number 1 or number 2, closely followed or being preceded by Sketch, because the heat here was. And then you also managed to reflect the heat with actually what is reflected in where I've put you as a top 5 performance. It was very well played out. You won convincingly, and that was the big thing. That was the big thing that I needed to see out of this draft, was the fact that actually you could take some of the you could hide some of the less desirable qualities of your draft, and actually produce quite a potent squad. So 5th, nice one. 10 place gain is nothing to slouch about. Coming in at number 4, we have Ducksuck and the Farfetch'd Flyers. This was a really, really well executed, patient game. Clefable won this game, and you chose the perfect set. prep wise, you were faultless for that. And then you were patient. You got the toxics off on the right things, and you were even more patient in the fact that so you had an opportunity with Clefable the first time to go for the jugular and end the game. So there are a couple of things which you weren't, I assume that you weren't too happy about. There are a couple of things which still had a little bit too much health that could have caused some issues. So you're just a little bit more patient, and then Clefable went in. I mean, I am a personal fan of using Clefable. I hate having to prep against it. Good man, keep it up. I want to see more of this, and you will go up the rankings. The issue is the top three, they'd be a bit good. Coming in at number 3, we have Scoot, aka Zamcro, aka soon to be Samami come week 3 or week 4 even, of the Blackmont Raikougas. This is a solid game plan. The Lure Raikou played out nicely to just stick it to Seismitoad. The sub bulk up Glade, it was nice. It managed to play well off of the Celesteela, and actually you did kind of lose the reins on the game a little bit through that, because Slap kind of came at you quite well, but being able to hold Alolan Muck that well says a lot, and actually managed, whilst going through that, to actually rise above some of the slightly more interesting hacks that went against you whilst Alolan Muck was setting up. Third nonetheless. Tight grass, well played, solid game. Just what I would say is that, so the reason you are third, if you hear this at all, is so the reflection in the person that you played is that so you played a significantly weaker person than Bash, and whilst it was a sound game plan, I'm someone who also it may not be the correct thing to do, but I'm somebody who rewards bringing more interesting and creative sets, which is why Sketch is second. This is why you are second, and this is why you will remain second. Impeccable choice of Lopunny. I loved it. And then you just manoeuvred into a position where Mence did Mence things. Again, it's a similar thing to the reason why Scoot is third, is that the fact that so your opponent, in my opinion, is still reflected as probably the worst draft plus coach combination currently. Not nice words. I'm sorry, Lev, again. Not nice words. It probably doesn't do your team justice, but we got to wait and see. And so that is why you're second. So this means that in first we have Bash of New York Metagross, who remains first after the post-draft rankings. And actually, this was a really impressive display. Did I say New York Metagross? I meant New York News. No. I talk to too many people. Shut up, KD. KHD, even. Words. And this can be added. This can be edited out in post. Lol. Not like I'm recording this with the sound at all. Yeah. How far? We're half an hour in. Blimey, guys. Hey, I talk around. Back off, KHD. Yeah. So. Okay, I'm sorry for those who are watching on YouTube. I'm just slowly watching KHD rip me apart now. Anyway, first, Bash of the New York Metapods, Metagross, something, Muse, whatever, don't care. This is a really impressive display and looked like a playoff game. I've said that already. And actually, something which I found really impressive was the patience that you showed in just slowly whittling away the mons which proved troublesome to you, and actually positioning your team in a place where, so your win cons, they remained healthy for the majority of the game, and pardon me. And actually, you managed to maintain pressure on Golurk, which was a big thing versus your team. There is only one thing that I have to say. Why wasn't the Raichu surf? Because I'm pretty sure that's an Alolan Raichu thing, because you get Surf Pikachu in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But yeah, that rounds it up. I will show everybody what I think the rankings are currently in total as a slide. Enjoy it now. Future me sort that out. But yeah, so overall this was actually a really, really solid set of games. There was only two that I properly took issues with. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoys listening. To my studio audience, I love you all. And yeah, so week 2 power rankings will hopefully be being recorded Thursday afternoon, somewhere between like 3 to 5 p.m. British Standard Time, so it'll be somewhere just before midday Eastern Standard. I think can't confirm just yet. I think that's when. But yes, hope everybody's enjoyed. Play well. We're into week 3 or week 4. I can't remember which. My memory is going. I'm tired. Yeah, I hope everybody's enjoyed. Play well, and I shall see you all in the next video. Bye bye.